Greetings, friends, and welcome to today's episode of Head Above Water. This is your host, Jason Charnick. It's March 26th, 2020. Sorry for the delay in getting a new episode out to you guys. I know it's been a pretty long time, and a lot's been going on in the world since the last episode. I don't want to really spend too much time on an intro with you guys. I don't really have anything to promote. Don't worry about the Buy Me a Coffee. Don't worry about supporting the show or anything like that right now, but I did have a few interviews that have been stacking up, and while we're all stuck in our houses and we all have a little bit of extra time on our hands, I kind of wanted to share some of those with you. So this week's episode is a conversation with Mike Peebler. He's a dear friend of mine. He's an actor, he's a director, a writer, and a producer as well. And his latest film is called Evie. It's about child marriage. We're going to have some links in the show notes where you can check it out and learn more. I have a few, like I said, I have a few interviews coming up that I had previously recorded. I've been spending the time editing these things for you guys, and I'm going to get them out to you on a pretty regular basis over the next month or two. So stick around for that. But like I said, I don't really have anything else I want to self-promote right now or anything like that, but I wanted to give you guys a way to pass the time. I'll be back on the other side to talk a little bit more. Thanks a lot. And without further ado, here's our interview with Mike Peebler. We're here with Mike Peebler. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good to see you. We have a nice live podcast recording here today. Why don't we open up? Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're doing? You're an actor, you're a director, you're a performer, jack of all trades. What are you working on right now? What's going on in the world of Mike Peebler?
Sure. What's always going on in the world of Mike Peebler is auditioning.
We'll definitely have to talk about that in a little bit.
Yes.
That's got to drag on you.
Acting has been very good to me over the years, and I'm very grateful for all of it, and I continue to enjoy it. That said, I'm very much trying to get out of the acting business and replace it with the directing business. So
get out of acting entirely.
If I had my druthers.
All the druthers.
Give me all the druthers.
All the druthers.
I want a big pile of druthers.
I want all those druthers.
What are druthers?
Yeah. I don't know, but I want them all. I do want them all.
I need to find out what druthers are.
Yeah.
So if I had them, the story really goes like this. I had spent my entire life pursuing acting since I was a little kid in Houston. First thing I ever did was like a Castle Dental Center's commercial in Houston. I got real famous at my junior high. And actually, the very first thing I did, I was in second grade, and I did the school play of Under the Big Top. And I was cast as the ringmaster, and we had two shows. One was for all the kids, and the other was for all the parents. And I was the ringmaster, so I had all the lines. I introduced every act. And halfway through the show, in front of the entire school, I forgot my line, and I panicked, and I ran to the nurse's office, and I threw up. And a teacher had
During the show?
During the show. Like, I bailed.
Wow. And you said, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
So here we go. So here's the trippy. Yeah. So here's the thing. So and I'm in second grade. So the next night, the director gives me a laminated piece of paper with all my lines, and she says, "Here, take this on stage. That way, if you get scared or you have your lines with you." So little old me, I don't know what possessed me, but I'm standing backstage holding this piece of paper, like it's time for my entrance, and something came over me, and I threw the thing into the wings, and I marched out there without it, and I did it, and I did the show. And there's this old saying that you spend your whole life either running.
And that was that night. So she gave you the card. You're about to go back out there, and you're like, you know what? I don't need this. I
don't need this stupid card. I'm going to do it without it.
Even though you ran off the stage and threw up just like minutes earlier.
The day before. The day before.
Mm-hmm.
So. And there's this old saying about how you spend your whole life either running from or trying to conquer something traumatic that happened in your youth.
Sure.
So that it's interesting because that experience, and then I started getting the acting bug, and then so I pursued it my whole life. I got an undergraduate degree in acting from Northwestern University, which is an incredible place, and I went straight from undergrad to grad school and got an MFA in acting from UCLA. And then I immediately, as soon as I graduated there, I started working as an actor, joined Equity, joined a theater, started doing commercials, started new TV. So acting is all I have ever done in my entire life. That is a long way around to the point.
But what you really want to do is direct.
Oh God, I hate that. I hate that so much.
I did a couple of summer camp plays where like Music Man and Oliver, and where I was in the chorus, but I always wanted to be the guy out in front. And I honestly look back now and I think, because I've tried acting a couple of times, since I've been, in this career, and realized just how fucking hard it really is. But when I look back and I look at the plays that I've been in or the shows that I've been in, Annie in the 5th grade, and I was Bundles McCloskey or whatever. And I think that like if someone had said to me give it a shot. You could be good at this. I think I probably would have really pursued that.
Oh, interesting.
As a career.
Yeah.
But nobody ever said, and actually the only time I can really, it's kind of a bit of an aside as we're just getting into the conversation, but the only time I can ever really think that I was kind of encouraged, and it wasn't even really encouraged, but in 5th grade, we had our school production of Annie. I was Bundles McCloskey, but my voice was changing. So I was like 12, 13. And I was not supposed to be Daddy Warbucks, but I was one of like the prime contenders for that.
Sure.
And I mean, that's a juicy role if you're an Annie.
Yeah.
You're a man.
Yeah.
That's the juicy role.
That's the one.
You're not going to be Annie. You're going to be Daddy Warbucks. And I wasn't going to be Annie.
Yeah.
So I was...
You'd make a good Annie.
I think it would make a great Annie. But my voice was changing, and I guess like you just don't want someone's voice cracking in a musical in 5th grade. So like they just kind of put me, like, you'll have a couple of lines as Bundles, you'll be chorus. And I just remember thinking, well, nobody's really, saying go for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of let it slide.
Let it slide. Yeah.
Took a couple of acting classes in college. I've acted before when I just feel like I'm saying lines and I know I suck at it. But there were a couple of times when I was in it, especially in college.
You
I was
had
like,
that feeling, yeah.
And you get that where I'm just like, wow, for like an hour, like we did Speed the Plow in college. And like Mammoth is like as thick as you can get.
Visceral.
Yeah. And I was Bobby Gould. And be honest with you, I fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
And I remember I couldn't remember.
That's the best.
I couldn't remember. Usually when I do act, like I'm saying my lines and I'm still present as who I am and I'm just saying lines. But after that show, I was just like, wow, is this what it's like? Because it's actually a very special feeling.
Totally.
That I don't think non-actors
understand.
Because they see people playing and stuff like that. And I don't think non-actors get that. But I still never got the sense from anyone that was like, listen, maybe I wasn't very good at it, but I never really got the sense from anybody that like, hey, you should try this a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I just wish I had gotten a little bit of that encouragement because I feel like I might have been good at it.
I'm going to get in the time machine. I want to go back and say, hey, little Jason,
get up
you
there,
can do
even
it.
if you're Bundles, get up there and give it your all. And it's just, I don't know, that's just a little aside about acting because even though I have directed, I've directed short narrative films, but I've directed actors before and I respect actors and love actors. But when you're in that moment and you're feeling what it is all about for real, even though you're pretending, but you get that. You get that. It just gives you a whole different perspective,
completely
on acting. I think.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was in my movie. Like I had to stare at myself as a non-actor. I had to stare at myself nonstop all day, every day, knowing that audiences of people are going to be.
What was that like to edit?
After a while, you do turn it off.
You get numb to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, being a post-production type of guy like myself. And people have asked me that all this, too, because it's about my family. At some point, like I just have like it's still a piece of recorded material that needs to be edited. So you were able to get
that eventually, that objectivity that you needed to.
Like I said, and I'm not like Adam Driver. I don't have much of a problem looking and I think, and it's weird too, because as I decided to start a podcast, I think I have an awful voice. I think I have an awful voice. I think it sounds awful recorded. But when I watch when I've seen and I've acted in my own movies before too, and have sucked at it hard. Like look up YouTube, go online, Anatomy of a Reveal. It's a little bonus feature of my short. I can't say a line without just like cracking up because if a camera's on me, like whatever. But at some point, you're just like, well, this is just a file on a computer. Yeah. And I need to.
Because I've never wanted to do that. The people have always said, "Who you want to be in your movies?"
You've never been in any of your movies.
I've never been in any of my voice has been in a couple of my movies.
Interesting.
But I've never appeared on camera in any of my movies. And part of that is because I don't trust myself yet as a director to have the confidence to build a scene and then step away and go shoot. And like it just and it also speaks to the fact that I think I prefer directing. So it's like I don't feel the need to I'm not using directing to make my acting career better. I'm actually using it to make my directing career better.
Do you regret that you didn't do this, shifting into directing sooner? Because it sounds like you kind of, not that you regret being an actor, because I know how grateful you must, like you said, you're grateful for being a professional actor.
Completely.
To get paid
I have health insurance from SAG.
I mean, that's an amazing thing to hear, but you also sound like you kind of wish you had done this a little bit sooner.
I definitely wish I had done this sooner. I definitely wish I'd done this sooner. The regret is such a loaded word because I try and live without regret because, I am where I am and I try and look forward. That said, I do wish that I had started sooner because A, I'd be better at it, and B, I do feel like making this shit, it's just such a weird business, and age matters in a weird way. In age matters in every line of work, but it matters in a way that's a little different. In show business, even behind the camera, like everybody wants to find the hot new young director,
emerging directors.
Yes, exactly. And an emerging director that's not 25. It's
right.
like, what are you?
A 45-year-old emerging director.
Hey, I'm not 45. Take it easy.
Yeah, well, I am. Jesus Christ.
I'm close. But no, it's just a different thing. So yes, I wish I had begun earlier. My process is what it is, and I am where I am, and all I can do is move forward.
Do you feel that you got? So I mean, you've said you're grateful for being a working actor.
Totally.
But do you feel that you were locked into this as a profession from maybe a little bit of early success? Maybe got you thinking that you were on a certain track, and then maybe it went down. And that's not to say that the direction you're going down is not a successful one, because it is. But maybe that you were kind of locked into that once you started going in that direction.
Yes, and I will say, and I carry no resentment. I Northwestern and UCLA were both incredible programs and taught me so much and helped me in my career. That said, I wish, and I think they're better about it now, and I actually recently went back and spoke to some acting students at Northwestern about this. I wish some professor had cornered all of us or me or whatever and said, you must take just put it in the curriculum. You must take a screenwriting class to be an actor. You must. Because they make directors take acting classes. I wish I'd taken a screenwriting class or 3 screenwriting classes or a filmmaking class. Somebody looked at you and said, make your own content.
So because like I said, I took a couple of acting classes in college, but they were acting for non-majors. It was, just like a fun little elective. But when you're majoring in acting, there's nothing that says you need to see the other sides of the spectrum.
They didn't. It wasn't
How can
required.
They give you a full,
like
a well-rounded education.
Well, here's what I'll say. So it's interesting because Northwestern's education. I mean, they're not a BFA program. They're a bachelor. I have a Bachelor of Science in Speech. Actually, is what I have. So I had to take a bunch of classes.
Right.
And actually I liked that about Northwestern. You did get a very got a well-rounded education. I took astronomy and I took Greek philosophy and I took Russian literature and I took, because in a BFA program you're doing acting and dance and pretty much everything immediately tangential to acting for 4 straight years. So Northwestern was a well-rounded education, but that particular aspect of it, and this is where I think in the MFA, particularly at UCLA, I wish we had been forced to create more of our own content and create films and just learn that, because I was so scared of it that I didn't start trying to write screenplay and create stuff until way too late not too late, but much later in the game. Yeah.
So let me go back to something that you just said then about being scared.
Yeah.
Just to bring it back around to the whole point of the show. So were you at the time in college, you're acting, you're getting, your education, you were just scared to go out and make your own thing? What were you specifically scared of?
No, honestly, I think, if we're talking about college days.
Or even now.
You're right. So, because in college days, I just was busy and I had, that's where I say if it was part of the curriculum, I would have done it. But once I was out in my professional life, honestly, if I really answered honestly, I was probably just too lazy at first, because I did start having success right away. I started working at an equity theater and I landed a couple commercials and suddenly I had money in the bank from acting and it was great. I was doing fulfilling acting work, working at this theater, doing Shakespeare every summer and teaching, and then I was getting commercials and a little bit of TV work, and it was like, hey, I'm doing the thing I've trained my whole life to do.
Right. This is it. I'm here.
And the trajectory will only go up from here. And so my motivation to do it there at the beginning was low. I just didn't think I needed to. And that was still, when I was in grad school, I didn't have a cell phone yet. So, we're still prior to anybody can make content for no money at any time, right? So there were still hurdles to doing it. So you really had to be motivated to do it then. And I wasn't motivated back then. And then as I kept working and stuff, it just kept not happening because I just didn't feel the need for it. It's like, I'm doing what I want to do. And it was only after time went by that I started to feel like, okay, I'm not doing what I want to do. What else do I want to do? And that's
Right. So what do you think precipitated that shift in your mind?
There's a particular thing, and then there's a sort of gradual thing. So the gradual thing is, as my acting career unfolded, again, I'm very grateful to be a working actor, but at this point, I kind of see, and things happen. Like, John Hamm was in his late 40s, I think, before things really took off for him. Like, so it happens. But I kind of feel like, and this feeling started probably, like 10 years ago in my mid 30s. Like, I haven't gotten the big movie yet. I haven't landed the TV series yet. What else is going to happen?
Right.
Like, what else is there? So that feeling, that's a gradual feeling of like, the trajectory I thought I was on isn't going quite where I hoped. And while I'm grateful for the fact that I work and that I'm paying my bills, but I don't feel that escalation happening that I was hoping would happen by now. So that's part of it. I started directing theater because I was, involved with a couple of theater companies very heavily. And it started with doing youth drama camps. I was directing kids and I was like, oh, this is fun. And I think I'm pretty good at this actually. And then that turned into like directing little projects at this theater. And then it turned into directing bigger projects at this theater. And then another theater down in Orange County, I started directing there and I became the associate artistic director. So that was how directing started to get into my vocabulary. But the very specific thing that happened, and this is me being genetically blessed. So I have a great dad, and my dad has always supported my being in the arts, even though he has nothing to do with the arts. He's an electrical engineer who grew up in rural Kansas. He's always supported me being in the arts. So he paid for me to go to Northwestern. Like I graduated with 0 student debt because he did that. Now grad school, he was like, I'm not paying for it.
We've already done this for 4 years.
And I totally respected that. It wasn't an issue. He was like, you want to go to grad school, then get a loan and pay for grad school, which I did. So I totally respect it. That said, he's always come to see my shows. He's always been supportive of what I've done in the arts. And so he came to see a play that I directed. And after that play, we were having a conversation, and he said, I've always thought you are a very good actor, but I think you're supposed to be a director.
Supposed to be.
Yeah. Just in terms,
interesting choice of words.
Yeah. Just and it instantly for me, I was like, I was thinking the same thing. I've been feeling that too. And he said, well, great. Well, what does that mean? Like, what do you have to do? And I said, well, I'm not going to be a theater director because I'll never make any money unless I go to New York.
I still want it. Yeah. Like
I want to make a living. Yeah. You could make a living as a theater director in LA particularly is like, good luck.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I guess I need to make a short film and see if I can do that. And see if I want to do that, and if I like doing that. And then my dad, he's just such a business mind. He said, oh, don't make a short film. You need to make 3 short films. You need a portfolio to don't just make one. And I said, well,
that's the guy that wouldn't pay for grad school now wants you to go make multiple movies.
So I said, well, that's great, but I don't know how I'm going to pay for that. And he said, well, here's what I'll do. Whatever money you put in for your first projects, I'll match it.
Wow.
So then I was like, oh, okay. So that put pressure on me.
There we go. Yeah. Now it's real.
It was a real thing. It put pressure on me because then it was like, oh, put your money where your mouth is. And I had some savings and so then I was like, oh, damn. And because my dad is my dad, and I'll cut to an end thing that we did, which was me and my buddy, who I'll talk about in a second, we created this production company to make our things called Upstart Crow Films. So my dad was like, for my investment, you're going to sell me 25% of your company.
All right.
So he bought 25% of
our
newly.
He's starting to do business.
And if our production company takes off,
he's got a piece.
He's got a piece.
And I respect. A fair deal.
It's totally like it's so much better than here's 25 grand.
You don't want
go
him to just keep giving you money.
I don't ever want him to give. I've never wanted to just ask him for money, right? So suddenly I went. So that was the deal he offered, and I said okay. And then suddenly I was like, oh shit, I have to write something. Like I've never written a screenplay.
And you didn't take a screenplay class in college.
I never took a screenplay class. Like what am I gonna do? Because I'm not gonna let this opportunity go by. And so I went to my buddy Mark Fellner, who's very creative and I've been very close with over the years. And I've just always had a great creative vibe with him. And I said, Mark, I got this opportunity to make 3 short films. My dad's going to match whatever money I put in, but I don't have any scripts and I think I need a writing partner because I've never done this before. And he was like, sure, let's do it. So we banged out like 10 ideas, picked the best 3 ideas. Then we wrote those 3 scripts. And then through a friend at a theater, in a play that I was directing, this guy recommended me to this producer, her name's Tiffany Gray, and she's amazing. And Tiffany looked at our scripts and said, well, for the amount of money you have, you can't do these 3 films. You can do 2 of the 3. And these 2 are clearly better than this third one, which we all agreed with pretty easily. And so we had the money and we had the producer, and we shot 2 short films simultaneously. My first 2 directorial projects were 2 short films in
simultaneously.
Yeah, we shot them. We shot them because you get economy of scale. We shot those first 2 short films back to back over a 5-day window. We put them in post at the same time. We edited them at the same time. We put them in the film festival circuit at the same time. So we did.
So you're also now you're competing with yourself on the festival circuit.
And both of them actually. The first, and I've talk about this is a regret. So the first. They both premiered simultaneously. They both got into the CineQuest Film Festival,
which is
that's a
damn good festival.
That's an Academy.
I didn't get into CineQuest.
It's an Academy Award qualifying.
Sure is
film festival.
Yeah, for shorts, you bet.
I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know how to network at a film festival. I didn't know the value of this particular film festival.
In college either.
I fucking blew that opportunity. I was an emerging filmmaker who had 2 short films simultaneously screening at an Academy Award
qualifying. How many people I've met over the last year would smack you in the face right now?
And I went and I sort of partied and I watched the movies and I regret. I could have leveraged that, I think, way better than I did. I could have networked so much more. I mean, I remember the couple people that I told was like, yeah, I've got 2 movies here. We're all like, what?
Yeah, 2?
I just didn't even realize it.
And that's interesting that you say that too, and that I even say what I said, because another one of the things that interests me so much and that I want to talk to people about is how they define their own success and failure. So a lot of other filmmakers, indie filmmakers especially, would look at that as an extreme success, that you've gotten into 2 festivals. And you're thinking of it as not necessarily as a failure, but as a missed opportunity.
Totally.
So,
and it's both, right? It is a success.
Yeah.
And in fact, in my bio
how long does that success really last?
Right.
You get to keep it in your bio for as long as until something happens.
Yeah.
But
it was a total missed opportunity to have, and I can't point to anything tangible and be like, well, I missed that,
or I said something stupid to that one guy that could have given me $10 million. But like it doesn't work like that.
But now that I've done, 5 short films and the 6th is in post. Now that I've done 5 short films and been to a whole bunch of film festivals, none of which were as good as CineQuest, and I put good in quotes,
right?
But good in terms of, reputable. That's the only Academy Award qualifying festival I've ever been to, was my first one with those 2 movies. So now that I've been to a ton of them and networked at a ton of them, I just realized how I could have maximized that opportunity and didn't.
So let me ask you another question. So going back to what you said earlier about when your father had offered to help pay for these short movies.
Right. And I realize what a place of privilege that is, right?
Sure.
I mean, I am so acutely aware that afforded me an opportunity that is incredibly rare and gave me the chance to create these first 2 things in a way that most people never, ever get. So I'm so grateful and so aware of what a privileged moment that is.
So you were saying, like, when your dad said he would help pay for it, you immediately felt pressure.
Totally.
Not only to create something good, but like, you want to live up to your father's expectations.
Yeah.
You want to
not blow this opportunity.
Right, because he's supporting you, but now he's giving you straight cash.
Yep.
And you don't want to blow that.
Yeah. And by the way, my own cash was the other half of that funding. So it was my own little savings pile and matched with his. So it was sort of double pressure because I'm sinking my money into this and his money's into this. And, it definitely was a lot of pressure.
When you made those first 2 movies and your father had thrown in some and you had thrown in some as well, were you already married at the time?
I was.
So how did your wife react to, like, you're going to do what with our money?
She's been great. She's been great about supporting my dream in this. So I am blessed in that way too.
And she's an actor too, though, right?
No. She's about as multi-hyphenated as you get.
Okay.
She has acted. That was actually where we met. She was also in the DGA. She was a DGA trainee, and then it was like a second.
So you're jealous too.
She also has an MBA.
All the letters.
Yeah, she's got all the letters. She's worked in the education department at the LA Opera. She's done a ton of different stuff.
It's great.
Yeah. So anyway, support from all sides. And
has she ever said anything like, there's a limit to this though? Like, have you ever had a conversation where she's like, listen, I mean, we can keep doing this, but at some point
we're done using my house as a location. But no, in general, she's been very supportive, which is very, very lucky. Can I tell you, though, one of the things that appeals to me so much about filmmaking, that acting, particularly film and TV acting, in the manner in which I have done it, which is not number one on the call sheet, it's so collaborative. It's so, now maybe your doc is probably a different feeling, but but it's probably collaborative too.
Oh yeah, very much so.
But being that, you mentioned at the top about how a lot of people want to be the director to be the boss. My favorite thing about directing is having an idea and a vision and handing it over to really talented people, to a production designer, to a cinematographer, to a set designer, to a sound designer, to an editor. Handing it over to people who are way better at those things than I could ever hope to be, and seeing that vision come back better than I could have ever imagined it. That, to me, that essence of collaboration, I feel oftentimes as a director, I feel like I'm the servant to help all these talented people bring their best to whatever this thing is, and then, sort of stitching all those different things together to make the thing. But to me, it's just the collaborative element of it, and an actor on a TV show or film, or you sit in your trailer for hours at a time, and then you go and you do your thing, and then you go to Crafty and you go back to your trailer. And it's like, it's so isolated. And you maybe you bond with the other actors, and maybe if you have a big part, you get to, chat with the director or some, but I think if you're a series regular on a TV show, which I've never been, I'm sure that's a more collaborative feeling, because I see the series regulars when I work as a guest star or whatever. They still go back to their trailer,
right,
and they still go to, Crafty, and they still, just the collaborative, interpersonal aspect of directing is just so exciting to me.
I love collaborating too. I love it. I mean, I've met so many talented people in 25 years in this business that I love working with and want to work with again in the future. And again, as somebody who still feels a little bit of that imposter syndrome, the outsider syndrome of like, wow, I don't really belong here.
Join the club.
As we all do. But to have that opportunity to work with such talented people excites me. But I've always, again, and it goes back to what I was saying about, we spent a lot of our own money, and we had a lot of crowdfunding. And if I'm not going to put my own money into it, or if I am, it's going to be just a little bit of money. I got to make what I can make just to make it. And if that means it's only going to cost $1,000 and I have to direct,
wear all the hats,
edit, finish, make the DCP, if I have to do all that stuff myself, I will. And you're right, it will probably end up looking not nearly as good as it would as if I had gotten a group of people behind it. But
you got it made.
I got it made, and sometimes it feels like that's the only option.
Completely.
So it's not like I don't want to collaborate with people, but sometimes I kind of feel trapped.
Totally.
And I think a lot of other, especially micro-budget indie filmmakers, feel that same way because, and that's also where I kind of feel this missed opportunity, like you were saying, like Getting Over was in South by Southwest. And I met all these wonderful people, directors, filmmakers, producers, funders, financiers. Yeah. But none of those people are giving me money now.
Did you go to South by Southwest with something in your back pocket? Like,
no.
Because everybody, you can't.
But I've also nobody ever said, "Well, what do you got? What's next?"
Oh.
Not one person.
Oh, I've had a ton of people do that.
No
at
one was
festivals.
ever like, "Well, what else do you have?"
Interesting.
And that's one thing a lot of people have always said. Well, you have to have something in your back pocket, and that's what I'm kind of working on now. Is at least if nothing gets made, let me build a book of ideas.
Yeah.
So I can be like, I got this. Yeah. I got this. I got a comedy. I got a drama. I got a documentary. I got a short. I got a feature. And then maybe something would click.
Yep.
But nobody at any point was like, well, what else do you have? And
I wonder if that's because you were in the documentary space.
That, and I think because it was so micro budget, this is one of the things I still to this day don't understand about the indie community. So South by, they accepted me.
Yeah.
They saw the film.
Is so incredible.
Saw something special in it. Talk about being grateful. Talk about imposter syndrome. Like, what? It's the second just because people know of Sundance. I think it's the best film festival in the country.
I can tell you, not for short films, it's the most difficult film festival to get into.
I mean,
they had 6,000 submissions, and they only have 40 short slots, 20 of which are narrative, 20 are docs. So if you're trying to get a narrative short into South by,
you have a better chance getting into Harvard.
You have a better chance getting into Sundance.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just bonkers that I was even there. And then I'm experiencing that. And I don't know if it's because we were in the spotlight and not the competition. So we were like, not that it's, AAA to the major leagues by any means, but it's a bit of a different thing. And the weirdest thing about the whole experience to me was, and I can encapsulate it down to one single experience. Our premiere, world premiere, when we had the Q&A afterwards, it was like a 20-minute Q&A, roaring applause afterwards. I felt like this was like, even
you were going to launch. This was it.
No, not even that. I felt like if I do nothing else after this,
this is it.
I'm still, again, that's part of the Imposter Syndrome.
No,
like,
but that's also being like present and grateful to think
absolutely. Like this is the absolute pinnacle of everything I ever really wanted in this business.
Yeah.
And everything else is gravy. And I had one of the film buyers from HBO documentaries come up to me on stage.
Okay.
And I'm from the Bronx, New York. And a lot of the movie takes place in the Bronx, New York.
Yep.
And this guy was from the Bronx, New York.
Okay, so here we are.
He comes up on stage, hands me his card, HBO, documentaries. He said, I really enjoyed the film. I just wanted to come and say hello. I'm from the Bronx. I really liked, seeing the Bronx on screen. And I was like, thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon. Perfectly pleasant, 20, 30-second conversation. And in that moment, you're like, yep, this is it. I made it. Ready to go.
They're going to buy my movie.
And it's gold. And they were actually already following the movie on Twitter. I don't know who runs their social media, but they had 4 years ago, actually by now, it's probably 6 years ago. They had something on social media that was like, if you respond to this comment with something retweet, we'll follow you. And so I did it from the film account. And so HBO Documentaries still follows the film account.
Perfect.
So I had emailed before the end of the festival. I had sent him an email saying, hey, it was great to meet you. I look forward to talking to you soon. Anything that I can get you, it would be my pleasure. Never heard from him again.
Crickets.
Ever again.
Well, did you write him that one email and only that one email?
I sent him that one email right before the end of the festival. It was maybe 3 or 4 days after the premiere, after I had met him.
Yeah.
And then when I got back to LA, a couple of weeks later, I sent another one.
And that was it.
Never heard back from him again.
Isn't that baffling?
And
what the hell?
Totally baffling. And listen, I get it. You're busy. Things are going on. You're at film festivals. You're seeing all this stuff. If you have no interest, don't fuck with me.
Or
just don't say hello.
Yeah,
or don't give me your card.
And I've never been in these positions, so I'm sure when you're on the other side, it's a whole different thing.
Totally.
But I've had interactions with people where I've given them a card and said, hey, will you check out the thing? And then they'll actually respond and say, this isn't what I'm looking for.
Right.
Which is
I've had plenty of people say that.
Great.
But at least they respond.
But at least what I'm saying is HBO guys should have at least written you back and said, hey, I enjoyed your movie, but
it's not really for us.
Yeah.
And I would have been
take
totally
5 seconds out of your day and just not be an asshole.
And I know the limits of my film. It cost $65,000. Most of it's shot on video. Most of it's high 8 footage from 1997. It doesn't look like, it looks like.
But that's part of the thing of the film.
And it is, and I love it for that.
Yeah.
But I get how it doesn't fit in with some of the other HBO docs that they have and stuff like that.
But just take 5 seconds and write you a fucking email.
And when we first got accepted, I was inundated by sales agents and all these people. Can you send us a screener? And I'd send them a screener, and they'd be like, thanks, it's not for us. We pass. None of that ever got me down.
Yeah.
Not hearing back.
That's the one that makes you crazy. Me too. That's the one that makes you crazy.
Because you don't know where you stand then.
And by the way, that's one of the things that just drives me crazy about the acting business. 90% of the time, you don't hear back.
You go on an audition and you
just
never...
what it is. That's what almost every audition is.
That's what I hate. I hate, because
that's being an actor.
Yeah, we're already a sensitive, emotional bunch.
Yeah.
And we've gotten into, and this is the whole point of the show for me. We're already a sensitive bunch.
Yeah.
And we're in this business that's specifically geared to fuck with people.
Yeah.
And I don't like, again, it's part of, as part of the outsider syndrome, I feel like I can really have a loud voice about it and almost be like, fuck you, industry.
Well, I think, take a number. I think everybody has.
And it's not a unique point of view at all, but it's just, it's frustrating and it messes with you and it gets you. And it's one of the reasons why I really haven't done anything since. And that's why I'm excited to start the show, because I wanted to do something for myself, even if no one listens to this. Like, at least I'm doing it for me.
Yep.
And and you can get your, yah-yahs out saying stuff too and all of that. But man, what have we gotten ourselves into on some level,
Yeah. But at the same time, yes. And I have this every time I work as an actor on a set. I'm always like, wow, how can anybody we make a living doing this? It just feels sometimes so superfluous and silly. And like, there's people working on cancer cures, and there's teachers teaching my daughter math, and it's like, I'm going to go pretend to be somebody and make my living that way. So with all the BS, it's like, well, maybe you should have to put up with a certain amount of BS because it's kind of BS, period. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Because, I mean, movies, yes, they can do positive good and they can change the world. And, like, I mean, specifically our project has a social justice component.
I don't want to talk about that.
We're trying to do things that are, like, change the world and do good. But ultimately, for 99.7% of movies out there or TV shows out there, the world is not meaningfully different whether they ever existed or not.
Right. And I never wanted to change the world either. Like, I'm not looking to change the world with my movies. Like, I'm just looking to do the things I like to do.
Who was it that said to me, there was I think it was a panel at a film festival. No, it was I don't want to go all the way down this rabbit hole. I was very lucky to do this Warner Brothers television directors workshop. And this showrunner, I'm not going to say his name, but he was talking because this sort of, they would like to talk in anonymity, but it was talking to us, and he said, the reason there's so much bullshit in this business, he was telling a story about a particular actor who I mean, some of these stories about these, like, number one on the call sheet guys, it's just crazy.
Right.
It's crazy. I mean, it's like stuff you're like, oh my God, people act like that, and they do. And he's like, this business, most of the people that are in this business are broken in some way. It's what draws them to this business.
Right.
So it's no surprise.
I mean, it's the whole point of the show. I mean, we are really,
right? So
mixed up in some way.
So it's no surprise that a lot of them have a hard time dealing with success, or they have a hard time dealing with failure, or they have a hard time being a decent human being or why they don't email you back when they don't, because they're the ones that are broken, right? So it's important.
It does make me feel better,
right? No, that because it is. This business pulls in people that are inherently a little bit off, and so we have to not be surprised when our interactions with them are sometimes maddening and impersonal and rude, and it doesn't excuse it,
right? But it's a reason.
What's that for the fourth agreement? Don't take it personally.
Right. Before Getting Over came out, I was in post. I'm still in post, but like I was, an editor and a post supervisor for years and years and years. And that part of the business was very much removed from all the bullshit because it's the after, it's the post. So we would spend time, and a lot of what I did was promotional work. So it was like afterwards.
Yep, that's the business part of the business.
So where we can do stuff and not have to worry about those trappings.
Yep.
And now that I've kind of
dipped into the other
dipped
side,
into it and embedded myself into the side, the one thing and following not just the indie world but the studio world as well. Like I said, like I don't really necessarily want to change the world with my movies. If they do, that's great. But I've just been really, and again, maybe this is too hot a take for radio, but I'm not at the end of my rope about it, but boy, we really give people like us way too much credit.
Oh, way too much.
But we treat directors and actors and those top of the call sheet guys as way more important in this world as they are. And if that doesn't fuck with their minds, I mean, what,
It's such a hierarchical.
And it's just frustrating. It's so frustrating. And not just because and again, for me, it's that inner conflict of, I want that so bad. I want that so bad, but I don't want that so bad. Totally. And I can't tell you how many times, like, my mind gears kind of grind to a halt because, again, like you had said when you were transitioning from acting into directing, how you thought you wanted to do this one thing, and then you realize, wait a minute, I want to do this other thing. Yeah. But in the same vein, it's like it gets your mind, like the fact that you were even a place where you thought that that's where you wanted to be. Yeah. And realized that it wasn't. Yeah. Like that drives me crazy because I always thought I was going to be a lawyer. And then I didn't become a lawyer. And then I always wanted to be an editor. And I specifically said, I don't want to be a director because I don't want that for my, and then you grow up. I mean, listen, life takes, I'm a different person now than I was when I was 25. Yeah. But you see how we treat these creators, these actors, these not even editors, but these directors, and we see how we treat them.
In this
hot takes.
In this country, we don't have royalty, so instead we have celebrity.
It's true,
right? It feels like all of humanity since the beginning of time. There's like, we like to worship people and put people on pedestals in some form or another. The fucking Egyptians
it's that total
did it.
Story in America. We love to build them up. We love to knock them down. We love a redemption story. We bring them back up.
That's our royalty, our celebrity.
I guess, I mean, and listen, I'm not trying to change the way the game's played or anything. It's just, again, being more finely tuned to it now than ever. But then, you know, just as a consumer, oh, I like this movie. I like this actor. Seeing how the business revolves around them just gets frustrating. You know,
amen.
I guess is the easiest way to say it. So let's talk a little bit about your latest project, and then we'll wrap it up a little bit. So Evie, short movie. It's about child marriage. You just finished your tour on the festival circuit.
We
How
did.
Did that go?
It was fantastic. We screened at 14 film festivals.
14, that's great.
Which is really terrific.
How many total did you say you applied to?
That's a good question. We submitted to about 70.
70? Okay.
So, you know, I'm told that's actually a good batting average.
That's a great batting average. I got into 4 out of, not even 4, because one of them was like one of those awards that you kind of buy.
Yeah.
Played at 3 film festivals.
Yeah.
Out of like 50.
Yeah. I mean, it's
and one
tough.
of them was South by Southwest.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I mean, I can't tell you how many rejection emails I got that said, we recognize that you were in a major film festival, but no.
Not for us.
Not for us.
That's so interesting.
You know?
I mean, it's such a weird...
So 14 festivals.
14 festivals, which, you know...
a huge success.
It's a huge success, but I mean, because it's a movie with a message, for me, you know, what's exciting about that is how many people we got this message, you know, this story in front of, because it's a thing that I don't want to go all the way down the rabbit hole of child marriage in America, but it's just a problem that nobody knows exists. You say child marriage and people go, oh, Pakistan or India or, you know, and you go, no, actually our movie's about an American girl. And they're like, what? So it's been great to take that to other states and other communities and culturally different places and see people react to that story. And then, you know, from a practical standpoint, this short is, you know, we shot 9 pages of a feature script. So we have a feature script, and part of the process of getting this out into the world and at festivals was networking. And so as a result, we've got 2 producers who are seriously looking at the feature script. One of them has given us two sets of rewrites. So she's really interested. It's like we've given her back a second rewrite, and she's going to read that over the break. And then the other one has got the script in his sort of I want to get to it pile, because he was very, very excited by the short film. So the short serving as a proof of concept for the feature, and hopefully by hook or by crook we will find a way to finance this feature film, and then we can get this story in front of a lot of eyeballs, because short films obviously have a limited reach. Sure.
So and one of the things I wanted to talk to you about regarding that is, so you've been involved with an organization.
Yes.
So what's the name of that organization?
Unchained at Last.
Unchained at Last.
And they are, so what's interesting is I just cold called them. So we were doing homework on child marriage. The story.
So you already had the idea.
Yeah, the idea had come to me. I heard a NPR piece on the radio about a child bride who had been married in Florida when she was 11.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's legal?
Well, 11's no longer legal, but it's still...
11 was once illegal?
Yes.
Well, you said Florida.
Yeah, well, Florida, everything's legal, right? There are still 13 states that have no minimum legal age.
Wow.
So it is legal in some places. Florida has a minimum legal age, but it isn't 18. So I heard this story and I went, what the hell? That can't be possible. And started doing the homework. Went to my writing partner, Mark, and said, hey, let's look at this for our next script. And then after we wrote the short script and we were starting to think about, maybe we should crowdfund this movie, that was when it suddenly hit me, like, this is not our story, right? We're a couple of middle-aged white guys.
Right.
This is a movie about teenage girls being forced to marry. I don't feel comfortable yet. And so just in my research, I'd come across this organization, Unchained at Last. I cold called them, actually cold emailed them and said, hey, I'm a filmmaker. We're interested in this topic. We've written a short film. We're going to do a crowdfund. Would you be willing to look at this script and just tell us, like,
are we close?
Yeah. Does this feel...
is this real?
Is this bullshit? Or is this
or
actually
two
what...
middle-aged white guys writing what we think
totally,
it would be.
Right? I mean, we based this on like 4 different stories that are real, so we weren't just coming out of nothing, but still, it just like...
You need that perspective.
I need somebody to tell me that this feels legit.
Right.
So they were like, yeah, we'll read it. And so the executive director and founder of the whole thing got on the phone with us, and I was so nervous for that phone call.
That's really what I wanted to talk about.
Oh my God.
Because now, like, you're not just... So if you hear a dog, don't worry about it. We do dogs on this show all the time. So when you're talking to this organization now, like that adds another layer of pressure on it, because you're not just making a short movie for you guys to kind of get your career along, you're now making
We're
a statement film. You're representing the
people.
organization. You're I don't want to use the term trying to change the world so much.
But we're trying to change something.
But you're trying to change something, and now you have that extra layer of we already have the pressure of putting some of your own money into something.
Yep.
You have the pressure of wanting to do right by your dad and do right by your career and all of that. But now you have an extra layer of pressure to do right by this organization.
Yep. So that phone call scared the hell out of me. And then she was great. She was like, this feels completely authentic. This feels like exactly the kind of stuff we deal with. We had some back and forth about specifics on it. They gave me a couple of ideas and some notes, but generally we were right on track. And it was after that, like, okay, I think we can crowdfund this. I feel comfortable asking other people to put in money to do this. So what we did, I think that one of the things I'm most proud of that we did with this whole process was rather than Kickstarter, rather than Seed and Spark, rather than Indiegogo, all of those, you end up forking over like 6-7% of what you raise. You fork it over to them and to the credit card companies.
That's how they.
I don't begrudge that at all.
Listen. They're a business.
But I wanted to give some of this money to Unchained at Last. And it financially was going to work out to do, there's actually an IRS rule. You cannot use those crowdfunding sites and promise that you're going to give a piece of that money to a nonprofit. Can't do it. There's some weird, it's a weird.
That sounds ridiculous.
You cannot do it. And if you look in like Seed and Spark, they tell you that in their like, somewhere in their pitch stuff is like
that if you want to give 10% to cancer research,
can't do it.
No.
Can't say you're going to do that.
Well, I guess because it's they're not a nonprofit.
Yeah,
Seed and Spark, Kickstarter, those are for-profit organizations.
It's some weird thing you can't do it. So I was like, damn, what are we going to do? So we just created our own. We built our own website. We built our own pay system. We built our own thing, and we donated 5% of what we raised to Unchained at Last.
Great.
So I'm super psyched that at the end of our crowdfund, we wrote them a check for almost $1,000. And so once we did that, we had our funds. And then, yes, everything I directed prior to that there was the pressure of just doing a good job. And then this was not only that, but I wanted to represent the organization well. I wanted to represent everybody who contributed to the crowdfund. And also people that contributed to the crowdfund, there were probably 4 or 5 victims of child marriage who wrote. Everybody who donated, I'd reach out to personally and thank them.
Absolutely.
And people whose name I didn't know, I'd say, how did you find us? And there were like 4 or 5. They were like, because Unchained at Last was echoing our tweets and our whatever. And they said, I was married when I was 14 and would tell me their story. And there were like 4 or 5 of those. And so I felt this tremendous pressure for them too, to represent everyone well. It definitely had a different feeling because of that.
Do you feel like you did right by them?
I do.
Do you feel that you could have done better? Do you feel any missed opportunities?
I don't. Like with the resources we had, I feel like we maximized. I mean, are there mistakes as a filmmaker? I look at and go, oh, man, could have done it. Yeah, always. But I really feel like we maximized. We got every dollar's worth. We got so much bang for our buck. We got so many things contributed to this movie and people contributing. And I'm really, really proud of what we were able to accomplish. And it's because of the incredible people we got to work on the project.
The next step for you is to make this into a feature?
We got to make this feature film. In the feature film, our model for the feature of like best case scenario is Get Out. Get Out's a movie about racism that's not a movie about racism, right? So it's this thriller that has this story about racism woven into what the story is. And this is the same with the feature film version of Evie. Evie, the feature film, because the short really is it's a movie about this girl like finding out she's being forced to marry. It's a child marriage movie. It's like nobody wants to watch a full feature-length PSA.
Right.
So the feature is a thriller about this girl, Evie, who's trying to escape this religious cult where she's been raised. And the child marriage is a thing that happens in the course of the film. So yeah, we want to do that. In the meantime, we have another short that we're almost finished with post-production on that is just a completely different. It's a 7-minute, 1-take action comedy with stunts.
Oh, awesome. We'll have to keep an eye. What's the name of that? Or can we not?
Foreclosure.
Foreclosure? We'll have to keep an eye out. When's that going to be ready?
We are almost done. We've got to build a credit sequence and we got to just tweak some sound design and the final composer little pieces. It's 95% of the way. So it'll be on the film festival circuit, hopefully in 2020.
That's great.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Awesome. So let's wrap up. Let me ask you, are you happy with where you are right now? Are you happy with your whole...
Boy.
I mean, I know let's wrap up with a quick and easy question.
Am I happy?
Because nobody, and I've said this to other people too, very few people, they ask you I could ask you what's next. What's next for Mike Peebler?
Yeah.
It's not that I don't care about what's next, but I care if you're happy.
Yeah.
Like I said, we're all, like you said, we're all very broken in some sort of way to be in this business in the first place. So it's really important to me that other filmmakers, not that you're, maybe you are emerging, but when I speak to younger filmmakers,
Yep.
like I want them to like know that like that's, listen, paying the rent is also good too, but being happy is really what we're trying to do.
I have a macro and a micro answer to that. In the macro sense, I'm aware I have a house over my head. I have my health. I have a healthy, beautiful, smart daughter. I've got, a great family. I've got a lot of things that I am grateful and happy about on a daily basis in terms of like, this is a filmmaker podcast. So in terms of that, I'm very, very not dissatisfied, but I have a great sense of that I have not achieved my potential, that I have so much more that I want to do. And this is such a business of comparison. So there's always, they did that. Oh, fuck.
Right.
Oh my God. I won an Emmy. Like I know
you got into 14 festivals.
Right. So so it is a business that breeds dissatisfaction.
Right. I want to try to do something about that. I don't know how. Yeah. Maybe this is not it. Like maybe it is, maybe it isn't.
No, but that's the thing.
Something's got to change.
No matter what you've done, there's always like. So for me, the hill I'm trying to climb, that like in the most immediate sense, is I want a paycheck as a filmmaker. I want to stop writing checks to make the thing.
Right.
I want someone to write me a check to direct a thing.
That is my goal.
That to me. And I'm sure as soon as that happens, I'll go, well, but what I really want to do is
two checks.
Yeah, right. It's
so I mean, yeah, maybe we'll always be chasing it, but at some point, like I've met people that don't appreciate what they have.
Yeah, I am happy on that sort of day-to-day basis. I am unhappy with the fact that I feel like I'm struggling so hard to find that first paycheck as a director. That makes me unhappy, but I'm happy in the work, and I'm happy in a bigger sort of spiritual sense. I'm happy in the chase. Right. Otherwise,
and happiness is not. That's what I'm realizing, because I used to think this before, and speaking to so many more filmmakers, I've changed my point of view. I used to think happiness was the goal. Mm-hmm. Like I will do these things,
and then I
will be happy, and then happiness will stay there forever. No, like happiness is the chase. It is the journey. It is realizing and being grateful for what you have, and knowing that the door isn't closed yet. There's a long way to go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work left to create and a lot of stuff left to do, and people to work with, and things that we can still accomplish. And the happiness comes in being grateful for what you have and knowing that the journey isn't necessarily over yet.
Yeah. I think of so many examples of people who appear to be on the top of the pyramid who are unhappy. I mean, the one that strikes me always, I think about him all the time because he was one of my favorite actors, was Philip Seymour Hoffman. Mm-hmm. I mean, that guy had everything. He had everything. And
he speaks to me too, as, from his... Because look, he passed away when we were making Getting Over. And it really, like, learning about his demons really struck me, because again, it's like someone who's acted in a lot of Paul Thomas Anderson films. I mean, his performance in Boogie Nights is quite frankly
transcendent.
one of the greatest performances I've ever seen on screen.
I completely agree.
And to think that he had these demons, and again, like when he passed away, and seeing he passed away like blocks from where my father passed away. Like in the Village area and all of that. So when I started hearing about it, I likened him to my father a lot, because people do drugs like that because they have a huge hole.
Because they're broken.
They have a huge hole in their hearts that they can't
fill with
anything but numbness and drugs. And I can't tell you how many times hearing my father in these interviews be like, just like, it's just easier sometimes. Yeah. And I know the dangers of feeling that you're not all there, and it's just easier to just not think about anything.
Yeah.
And then, you see someone that has all of the riches,
everything
at your feet,
Oscar winner,
and yet still have a hole in your heart so big that he couldn't fill it with anything but numbness.
Yeah. So that's my reminder.
Right.
Like I take that as like there is no there that's gonna hand you happiness.
Right. I still struggle with that every day. That you think happiness is the goal.
When I get that thing, and the other thing, then I'll be happy. And it's got to be in your suitcase, and you got to be carrying it with you.
Mm-hmm. And let that inform the work. That has to inform the work. And as you go on, like you said, you wish you had gotten into directing a little bit earlier. But all of these experiences will inform your work.
Totally.
And then the work will only get better because of it.
That's the hope.
Mike Peebler.
Hey.
Thank you so much for joining me on Head Above Water.
My pleasure.
I loved it. We'll have to have you back on sometime.
Sure.
And thanks. We'll talk to you soon. We'll see you up on this. Well, maybe we won't see you up on the screen soon, but we'll see you in the director's chair at least.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All right. Bye-bye. So there you have it, our conversation with Mike Peebler. Be back in about a week with another one. I have a few of these. I have 6 interviews stacked up. I might be speaking to a couple of people. Zoom calls are a pretty hot thing right now, so I might have a couple more coming up for you, but I wanted to give you guys a little way to pass the time, give you something to listen to. The next 6 episodes were all recorded before the situation at hand, so we don't discuss any of that stuff at all. So hopefully it'll be a nice little distraction from what's going on. Thanks for joining us, guys. I really appreciate it. I love you all. Please stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Take care.